Welcome to the Cartoon Pad, folks. And we've got everyone here. Everyone's in the house. We've got Marty, the producer, but even more importantly, we got co-host Michael Shaw.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, Sean.
I think that's it.
Our next guest was a Mad magazine illustrator. Are you still mad?
I'm very mad all the time. Yes.
Okay, good. And you've won 2 Silver Rubens Award. So was there a Golden Reuben you missed out on?
No, they just called it the Silver Reuben because people got it confused with the Cartoonist of the Year trophy is called the Reuben.
Right.
Rube Goldberg, ironically enough. And a couple years ago, people would win these plaques for best in advertising, best in comic strips, best in blah, blah, blah. And
okay, that's good. Wait, that's good. Just hold.
Okay.
Simmer. So it's not named after the sandwich.
No.
Because the Reuben is delicious.
It is a delicious sandwich.
And best in advertising illustration. Congratulations. As well as 2 different Nosy Awards for Caricaturist of the Year. Now, Nosy? Is it a nose?
Yeah, it is a nose. I could show it to you.
I see your nose. It's handsome.
Oh,
From the 2 different Nosies Awards for Caricaturist of the Year from the International Society of Caricature Artists. So there's an international society. Is there a national society? Oh, we laugh.
I called the National Caricatures Network, and now since they've gone to international, it's the International Society of Caricature Artists. Now, I did not win the gold and nosy. I have won the silver and the bronze. I will get lots of hate mail if I claim to have won the golden. I ran out of money. I couldn't afford it.
Well, if you win a nosy, you can't be picky.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. And you're also the vice president of the National Cartoonist Society and a former Manhattan chapter president. I'm assuming that's Manhattan, Kansas?
Manhattan, Texas.
Manhattan, Texas. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Cartoon Pad welcome to Ed Steckley.
Woo! Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mike. That was beautiful.
Well,
I sound like a professional.
I worked on that for days and a days.
That I could tell right from my wiki, which I don't know if I have or not.
No, Bob wrote that actually. I just gave it life.
If Bob wrote that explains the lack of swear words in it.
Bob, would you like to start swearing now?
No, absolutely not. I work clean.
He does. That's why it was a good choice.
Ed, let's just jump right into your new book.
You bet.
Rube Goldberg and his amazing machines. Congratulations. It looks really great.
Thank you.
I should say it's written with Brendan T. Snyder, but you did all the engineering of the drawings. I mean,
I did
the
all
drawings
the drawings
really required
yeah.
engineering.
Yeah, there's a lot of drawings in it, but I've done 3 Rube Goldberg books now. 2 are kids' picture books that are essentially each 2-page spread as one long Rube Goldberg machine with the A to B to C and all that all the way through until he completes his task. This book that came out, in fact, I just got them in the mail today as we're recording this. This book elaborates on this newly envisioned Rube Goldberg character who's now in 6th grade. He's going to school, and it's about him and his life and things that he has to deal with as a middle schooler, while also trying to come to grips with his newfound love of building machines.
No, it's really good. The writer is very accomplished. This guy is not just some writer. He has a really great resume.
Yep, I won't tell him that. It's going to go right to his head, but he is fantastic. The book is great too. I like it a lot because there's a lot of things in this book. Actually, do you want me to jump in or do you want to keep going for a bit?
Well, I want to talk about the book. I mean, I love the drawings in the book. I have questions about particular drawings as well. So
you bet.
Dive in.
Yeah, I'll just talk about the book a little bit because I'm really excited about it. It's the first in a 3-book series. And a lot of the characters in the book, Rube's friends, are newly envisioned vintage Rube Goldberg cartoon characters. Everyone who's listening to this knows that Rube Goldberg was a very famous cartoonist, starting in the 1910s and all the way up through in 1970. He had a number of comic strips. He had a number of features. He was very, very successful. But the one thing that he was most known for was creating these wacky inventions. And they would just be they were laid out like a patent application where it would have a description of what this machine does, but it'd be wacky, goofy, a self-wiping napkin. And it would have some elaborate A, B, C, D chain of events that would be just ridiculous. There's birds and animals and anvils and cannons, all to perform a very simple task. So if you think of the mousetrap game, yes.
Bob is looking for some self-wiping toilet paper.
Yes.
Sorry, Bob.
Mhm.
No,
The first time I ever saw, and I didn't even know that I was experiencing this Rube Goldberg machine, was at the beginning of Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
That's exactly right.
If you
Pee-wee
remember
is a big
Pee-wee's
fan.
And that kind of stuff is what got me. And then subsequently, I mean, also Looney Tunes had a bunch of stuff like that too, just like ridiculously complicated machinery. And then it would
it goes way before that.
But this is when I was exposed to. I mean, I got exposed to Looney Tunes, Pee-wee. Those are the two places where in popular culture it was definitely used a lot.
And
I would say also the movie Goonies had a very
Goonies,
famous
yes.
That one is referenced a lot.
And I have to say, I got exposed to a Rube Goldberg when I received the game Mousetrap.
Mousetrap, yes, absolutely.
And that stupid thing never worked.
Yeah,
it just
those plastic pieces.
Michael, what about Chi Chi Bang Bang, the opening?
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean where it takes them half an hour to boil 2 eggs and
Yeah,
they never eat them?
but Ed, I think you and me have a path that crosses because Peter Fishley and the late David Weiss, right? Their 1987 The Way Things Go installation at the Guggenheim Museum. It's one of the most important pieces of modern art is an installation in which they do the same thing. It's that whole film that does like the tire spinning and the candles.
Oh yeah, I know.
Right.
I'm familiar with it. I didn't recognize the names. Yes.
So those guys were doing that back in the 80s. I knew Peter from his installation of doing a snowman in a see-through refrigerator on the roof of the Art Institute of Chicago and at the Metropolitan. But Peter did all of that stuff. And I was wondering if you were inspired by that. And if you go back to that, because you've got to figure out all these things for your new books, right? I mean, you're coming up with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I watched a lot of videos. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. That what you're talking about, probably, I don't think I even saw that till after I was done with the first book. But I just had to kind of figure out on the fly how to build these things. I'm not an engineer. And anyone who's ever tried to put a Rube Goldberg machine together, even putting the Mousetrap game together, it is very frustrating, very difficult. and then you you design them, and then you have to draw it to make it look good and pretty. That was interesting. I've done 2 of those, like I said, 2 of those kids' picture books now. Each one has, I think, 15 big 2-page spreads. And this new book has a number. This new book has just almost 90 illustrations in it. And a number of them are actual machines. In fact, there's one full-page spread that's an overhead shot of a contraption convention. It's called Con. Not to give away any spoilers, but it's a shot of a convention floor, and there's a bunch of Rube machines in it, and it's really busy. It's really chaotic. Yes,
you need a contraption contest.
Yes, that
Yeah.
So,
like name your contraption.
No, but your Con,
sorry.
all the items really work, or they were really logical, right?
Yeah. Oh, thanks for noticing. Yeah. Every one of these machines, there's one or two where the machine is just, you just see a part of it. And that's the best because I can just do whatever I want. But if you see the whole machine, it's always thought out and it always works. And I always have this big sketchbook to my right here just to doodle on. And I have pages and pages of just like, first just objects, like what objects are funny. And the more of these I do, the harder it is to find funny objects. You can only have so many traffic cones and fans and toilet paper rolls where I really have to kind of rack my brain. I go outside and I take a walk and I'll see something. I'll go, and I'll write that down. And then, so I'll have basically a pile of objects that I want to use and build something out of it that has, 10 or 15 steps. And I had to learn how to do that. And in the first book, I wasn't very, it took me a long time. Now I kind of have a process, but it's still difficult. In fact, I'm working on one right now. The cover of the second book in this series has a machine on the cover. And I've really got to be in that mindset. When I'm drawing, I draw. If I'm just doing stuff for advertisers or magazines, that's just flat out drawing. I got that down. But designing a machine, you really have to kind of switch your thinking and put on the engineer's cap and get it to work. And it has to work. Everything has to work basically in physics. I had one of my machines was actually built by the Pittsburgh Children's Museum in 2018. They took one spread from the kids' picture book and they built it. And I couldn't believe it. It was how to create a piece of modern art in an art class. And everything worked. This one, instead of like splashing paint on a canvas, they were LCD screens that had a graphic that looked like paint. But things had to work. Like the ping pong ball has to go into this cup, and that it has to be teetering so it falls, and then that pulls a string and turns out blah 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 blah. It does. So everything works, and it's really cool when you come up with an invention where you look at it and you go, all right, I don't see a problem here. I have to show it to some people so they can, occasionally I'll miss a piece of physics, but oftentimes I'll be at the beginning of a machine and at the end of the machine, and I'll be stuck. I need to find one object, one cog in the middle. Yeah. And that's where I oftentimes get stuck. And I just have to walk around and, think of something else. And, I wish I lived by a junkyard. That would make my life a lot easier.
So does it really have to work? I mean, or does it just work once?
Yeah, it does, because kids are reading these, and I would never underestimate kids being able to follow it. And if they see something that's, wait a minute, how does this bird know to fly up? And there's a cracker over there. Great. Kids have to be able to follow it. And
right. So it works on paper, but what if your bird doesn't want to fly?
Well, that's a whole other thing.
You just beat up your bird.
Then you just beat up a bird. You get a new bird. Yeah. Then you get a new bird, and that bird's fired.
And it's very weird science. Very. And I understand you're a Oingo Boingo fan.
Sure. Who doesn't love Danny Elfman?
There's a lot of joy in your drawings. I mean, I really see it. That. I mean, and your double spread was an homage to what? I was trying to figure out the meaning behind it because I knew there was something going on, and I didn't quite put my finger on it.
Well, in this book, like I said, there's almost 90 drawings, and there's some that are just, there'll be two talking heads, or a character introduction. But I really wanted to, I didn't really think about it. I would get to an image and I go, yeah, this is kind of boring. She's just standing there. Why don't I emulate, a very important piece of art? And that also will make a statement on this character. So I've got homages to Rockwell. I've got one to Mort Drucker, one of my heroes, as is Rockwell. I've got there's an homage to Frank Miller in this. A couple of them I can't even think of. I told myself I wasn't going to say anything about that, but I just I got bored and just posted
any Facebook. Any Marcel Duchamp?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
But that one's really quiet.
It is.
The one that Bob is talking about is based on a Bernie Wrightson Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein, when he illustrated Frankenstein in the
Yes.
early 80s. I happened to be reading that at the time. In the middle of this book, I broke my arm. I hyperextended my elbow like an idiot. And so I had about 2 weeks where I couldn't draw anything. So I just sat and I read. And I went through, I never read Frankenstein. So I read Frankenstein and it's amazing. And I also, I bought the book a long time ago for the Bernie Wrightson illustrations. If anybody hasn't seen that book, then if you like, classic, classic book illustration, that book is perfect. And there's a very iconic image of the monster holding up Dr. Frankenstein by the collar. And they're on one side of the page, but the rest of the page is just full of, the lab. And it's just endless. It's just full of bottles and beakers and Bunsen. Oh, it's amazing. I can't imagine how long it took.
And you did a great job with the archway. The cobblestone archway was what made me think of Frankenstein. You did a beautiful job with that. And actually an illustration earlier, right before that, was the Gothic house. You did a beautiful rendition of the house looking upwards. I thought that was really beautiful.
Thank you. That was a Charles Adams. I had to find, I just really want to just give some love to the people that inspired me. And I'm a huge Adams fan. And it's not the Adams family house, but it's kind of has elements of that house. And there's actually two shots of, there's the intro shot of the house, and then there's the one that you're talking about later on in the book. And they're clearly not the same house. But if anybody points that out, I'll just say, oh, it's from the reverse.
But you're thinking about the house we passed on the way to Bunny's, right?
Yes.
Yeah, which is going to be funny. Bunny's going to be on a podcast, Sunday Papers.
Oh.
It's a podcast with Greg Fitzsimmons, which is pretty funny because at the end of their podcast, they really rip into the Sunday paper comics.
Yeah,
they really, yeah. But they are going to have Bunny on, and they do like the Lockhorns, which I'm sure we both wrote captions for her, right?
You guys have. Bunny's one of my favorite people in the whole world, as is John.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Greg Fitzsimmons. Talking trash about the Sunday comics, I'll take that, on a case-by-case basis.
But it is funny when you
hear her
listen
on
to
that.
Blondie.
I'm sorry.
His whole take on Blondie is pretty funny.
Really? Okay.
Oh, I recommend it.
All right.
Okay.
Who's talking smack about Blondie?
Yeah.
Well, we all love Blondie.
Ed, how did you get started in doing any of this? How did you get into Mad to start with? Where did you start doing illustration? How'd you get into cartooning and caricature? Where did you start all your art journey?
I got bored one weekend, decided to give up my insurance salesman gig.
Is that what you were doing?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just tell people that. Actually, my journey is pretty common. I started drawing caricatures in theme parks when I was in college.
Oh, that's great.
I answered an ad. Yeah, I answered an ad. I went to the University of Wisconsin, one of their offshoot schools called Whitewater. And
Whitewater.
I saw an ad. Huh?
Ed, I am currently employed by UW Green Bay. So
I will not hold that against.
I'm part of the system.
Oh man, are you ever? Let's see. I answered an ad to come draw caricatures at a theme park. The theme park I had never heard of. Turns out it was a little theme park in Minneapolis called Valley Fair. And I remember going to theme parks, especially I would go to Great America in Chicago when I was a kid, and I would just sit and watch the guys drawing caricatures.
Yeah.
I loved it. They were superheroes to me. I couldn't believe what they would do. I'd just sit and watch. And just kind of I just be this kid.
I used to love. I would go to King's Dominion, which was there's a sister park called Kings Island in the Midwest that I think might be closer to you guys. Kings Island, yeah,
Cincinnati,
and that was an amazing theme park, and then they changed it to Paramount's King's Dominion. But they had great caricature artists, and I used to always sit there and I would watch them draw, and they were so fast with getting a likeness and getting the mechanics, like getting the hands and getting that kind of stuff. So they're drawing someone on a surfboard, they're drawing someone barbecuing, like everything they did was just like one shot, black Sharpie, no mistakes. And I thought that was amazing. I was always like, no mistake. So whenever I would draw, I'd always draw. I would never draw with pencil and eraser. If I was like confident, I would just go for it, and I'd be like, and I ruin it, start over again with a marker. And I would do characters of my friends. Like I made a whole kit just like they had at the parks, and I did them as gifts and stuff. And when I was
I get one?
When I was like 7, I was like into this. I was like, people would come over for dinner. Yeah, my parents were like, "Oh, Marty will draw you," and I'm like, "Okay," and I would just draw people, and it was like fine. It was fine, but it was like it was high stakes because you're doing it live, and like doing it live was always more fun to me because it's like make it or break it. Like there's no starting over. You're gonna embarrass yourself in front of all these people, which I really admired.
Did you do it live, Marty? Did you do it live?
Yeah, I would do it live.
Where? At the
no, I never worked at a theme park. I would do it just as in the house with the family members or the family friends, and they would make me draw pictures of them for them, and I would do that. That's
horrifying. If you just draw your family,
aunts and uncles or family friends. Marty will I became like a party trick. Marty will draw you.
Oh man,
yeah, and I'd be like, oh god,
that could go horribly wrong.
My one time drawing caricatures with Pat Burns at a jewelry show in Indianapolis set up by the New Yorker.
Wow.
Pat Burns is like very, very, very talented, right? And he's working really, really, really hard to capture their essence. And I decided I was going to do caricatures in the Picasso-esque manner.
Right.
So I made all the caricatures look like as if Picasso had drawn them. So eyes were on one side. There may be a nose, maybe not.
Well, and they actually,
they turned out pretty well for Picassos.
Wow.
Took all the pressure off of trying to capture an essence.
Picassos sell pretty well, even with the noses on the wrong side.
I was selling them for like $12,000 a piece.
Well, I don't know. He never won a nosy.
No,
it's true. Or a silver nosy.
A silver nosy, yeah. So I went to go draw at this theme park. Turns out the guy who was hiring was a dude named Tom Richmond.
Richmond, quite a name drop there, Ed.
Yeah, I know. I like to drop names. Everyone who's listening to this probably knows that. He went on to be.
It sounds like maybe you're sucking up. You should have gotten a brown nosy.
Right. Nice. Yeah, nicely. Oh, he's going to hear that. Yeah, he's one of. I went to work for Tom in 1990, I think 1 or 92, and then I went to go work for another company in Chicago because it was closer. So I did that for 2 years. So after 2 years, or after 3 years total, then I went back into business with Tom, and we opened up another theme park operation in St. Louis. So I moved to
Six Flags?
Six Flags in St. Louis. So I dropped out of college. And I went to St. Louis to go draw and train artists how to do that.
You lucky bastard.
That was
what's the number one thing that you tell someone when they're getting to do a caricature, be a caricature artist? What's like the big tip? Like what's the thing you tell people to get them on the right track when they first start drawing for caricatures? Like, what do you look at? What's the thing?
I say to get your ass in the chair and draw and make money. After that, oh God, boy, it's been a while, but I do have a lot. There's a whole process you go through, but the whole thing is to not just visualize, the face. The caricature goes, even though you're often just drawing the face, you have to look at the whole person. And because, that's body language and all that. You have to learn how to construct a face, for starters. Like when you smile, these lines that come off your nose to your mouth, what does all that mean? Once you learn all that stuff, it becomes a lot easier to construct a face. And then you have the fundamentals, and then you can start to manipulate it. I would kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. Some people were very talented artists who just didn't have a humorous bone in their body, except for the humorous, oddly enough. And those people I would kind of try to coach and, tell them to basically lighten up, because you have to have a sense of humor to do that. Not everybody who applies, no matter what the talent level is, not everybody who applies made it, because it's a very high, it's a very difficult job, because not only are you drawing fast and efficiently, because the more you do, the more you get paid. You also have a crowd of people behind you who are not on your side all the time. So you have to have a thick skin. You've got to be confident. And the whole fake it till you make it thing really applies here. And then you have to be ballsy enough to show them their drawing and hope for the best.
Don't
And,
you also have to engage in witty banter and win them over?
Yep.
So that be
Oh yeah,
shameless
I
and-
got a lot of lines I could throw out and just
Did
it became
you call
second nature.
Did you call them Johns?
No.
Okay.
What did I call them? Schmucks, I think. Here
No.
comes other schmuck.
No happy endings, huh? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So I did that. I did that every summer until 2006. I would basically go and I'd draw in a theme park, and Tom and I were in business for years after that in different parks. I would draw all summer, draw 10,000 people all summer and train people, and I would make enough theoretically to support my burgeoning illustration career in the off season. That would always get really tight right around April.
So Ed, sorry, which city area had the ugliest people?
That would be I was going to. That would. Oh, I don't know who's listening.
I don't know. Cincinnati. I mean, okay, you got Kings Island, you got Six Flags in St. Louis. You ever do Cedar Point?
No, but I will say this: the people that came from the Ozarks, St. Louis,
ever
ones
done?
who came from the city were very nice, but the ones who came from the other side.
Did you ever do?
I
Silver
was going
Dollar
to say
City?
nobody's listening.
That's true. Yeah,
Bob's not listening.
I used to enjoy. I would go and I would definitely, if there were two caricaturists, I would check them both out, and I'd be like, oh, this guy's good, and then I would stay and I like watch the one who was like really good, and I'd watch him do like a couple just to be like, oh, what's he gonna do with this person's face? And then he would do
generally at least
it was like
one.
magic. It was like magic happening right in front of me. I loved watching people create caricature. It's so, it's so much harder than I'm sure, what you and Tom Richmond and Mort Drucker would have to do for Mad, because you get to work on this whole thing and you get to work on this whole process. But if that person, it was like it was one and done right in front of you. It's like you're sitting on like a lit fuse and you're just like, I'm not gonna draw right now.
There's a lot of thinking behind that I really love to talk about and think about, and it's probably bore everybody to death. But what you bring to the table when you're drawing a caricature, I mean, that is as important as, what you're doing physically with your hands, where your mind is. I've seen a lot of caricature artists who they just go for the jugular, and they don't take into account the client. They don't take into account who they're drawing. And they can do mean drawing. The drawings I did were never mean. I was always, they could be funny, but they were never mean spirited.
Yeah. They're goofy.
That's just because that's just the way I'm wired. But when you do stuff for Mad, it's basically the same process. What I would do is, again, I go back to this big sketchbook I've always got over here, and I would just take a big, thick, whatever pencil I've got and just kind of start, hashing out a face. So it's the same thinking, although the process I draw a face at the theme park is very different than the process I draw a face for a magazine. It's just because with the magazine, you've got to think about composition and where things are on the page. When you're just on a theme park, you just got a 11 by 17 piece of paper, and the face is the focus, and a little body or something. But if you're doing something for a magazine, you've really got to. It's not just about the face. Again, it goes back to the whole body, but it's also body language, interacting, drawing them in space. So when I do anything for say Mad, I would do an outline of the face, do a gesture drawing of the bodies, and get them working in their environment. And then I would go in and noodle the caricature. And that's the part I always loved. I was drawing caricatures when I was in sixth grade. I got for the school play one year, whoever was organizing that in Racine, Wisconsin, they had me draw all the teachers who were involved in the play, and they had an art show. I got in the newspaper, and there's evidence of me, doing horrible drawings, way back. I was, I don't know how old you are in sixth grade, 12 or 13 or something. And I just always loved it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know any history. but it's just something I always gravitated towards. But now there's a lot less work in my life for just caricature based, especially now that Mad's kind of on their they've really taken their they don't do too much commissions anymore, except for a few things every issue. So I've learned to take what I learned in caricature and apply it to other things. So what you're doing is you're excuse me, you're making you're doing an interpretation of what you're looking at. I love drawing people, but now, especially with Rube, I have to draw Rube doing all kinds of singing and different expressions and all that. Now that I know how a face works, even if it's a cartoon character, I can pull it off a little bit more and actually put a lot of myself into it. So it's the same kind of thinking, I guess.
No, Ed, you're
I
right.
never thought of that before.
Ed, you put a lot of life into the characters in the book.
Thank you.
They really come to life, I thought, because you exactly what you said. It feels very Mad Magazine, a lot of expressions along with all the gadgetry and all the stuff going on. It was really good. But behind all the joy, there's also a lot of hidden pain. Ed, what are you running from?
I am running from everything. And oh man, don't make me cry.
What happened in New York? You're leaving now. And what can you talk about it?
No, it's I'm in the middle of relocating. But it's I don't want
It's
to
an
jinx
undisclosed location.
Wisconsin, as a matter of fact.
Where?
Racine.
What
That's
the hell?
Racine's
I
the
wanna be
home of
closer
the
to you, Mike.
It's the first
you-
garbage disposal, right?
You're gonna have to
Yes.
start. You're gonna have to start drinking Horlock malted milk again.
Horlicks malted milk. Man, they drink beer in Wisconsin. Holy
Yeah,
moly.
you're
I have a
kidding.
friend. I have a friend that runs a company. He has a bar in Wisconsin called Drink Wisconsibly. That's
That's
a whole thing.
that's a
And-
Leinenkugel. That's a Leinenkugel.
It's
Is it
a
Liney?
it's, it's a big company. There's a bar location, and it's called Drink Wisconsibly, and it's really funny. They have a ton of comedy T-shirts, but it's actually a physical bar location in Wisconsin that's very popular. So you guys, both of you, have to get together, and you have to have lunch there or whatever.
You are returning to the land of the Kringle, so I congratulate you.
Thank you very much. I was
Did you
just
ever
talking
go-
about
did you ever go to
Pringles, guys.
Did you ever go to Cupie's?
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Oh
course.
Lord! How about the sausage kitchen?
What is Cupie's? Can we talk about what these places are for a second? What's Cupie's?
Let's do Cupie's.
You want to take that one, Mike?
No, I lived in Wisconsin. I mean, I lived in Racine for 4 years, so I was at Cupie's once or twice, and it was a legendary
Sex
chain-
dungeon? Sounds like a sex dungeon.
No,
Is it
burger
No, Mike?
joint?
Oh, burger joint. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cupie's was actually part of a chain back in
Right.
the 50s. This one broke off, just called Cupie's, but it's this little burger diner, Greasy Spoon, in the middle of downtown. But you could go there. If you went there at noon, you have to find a seat at the counter. It's all the stools around a long.
I love a counter. I love a counter.
Countertop.
Yeah.
But you'll have judges there right next to homeless people and everything in between, and you'll be in between all of those people. So it's a mix of absolutely everybody. Everybody loves it. Everybody goes, and it's fantastic. Whenever I see Shake Shack in New York, I just go, please.
Are their burgers the same? Is it the same kind of a Greasy Spoon burger, like a Shake Shack or like
Same type of thing. It's
In and Out?
It's a smash burger, like a smash burger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a pretty small burger.
Yeah, small. You got to get two of them.
Did you ever go
Not
to
like White Castle small.
Oh yeah, there's no White Castles in Wisconsin, but have you ever been to Totero's? It was
That's Milwaukee, right?
No, that was I think I got the name right. It was across from the Case factory in Racine, and you would go in back to the kitchen and you would point and say whether you wanted a meatball or no meatball on your spaghetti.
No,
And-
I don't think I did that one. I think I was confusing it at Bartolotta's or
classic.
something in Milwaukee. Boy, you're
Yeah,
just
we're gonna
losing
go to
all of your
Racine.
audience here, but we're getting hungry.
Yeah,
We have a chain there called Culver's. With
Butter
Culver's.
burger.
Yeah, they take a hamburger patty and they take a big square of butter and they put it on the grill and they put the butter on top of it and they just let it do
Right.
its thing. And it's absolutely the most glorious thing you'll ever eat in your life. You leave there bigger than when you went in,
And a little deader.
and a little bit more dead inside, but it was worth it.
It was worth it.
I have another question about portrait face drawing, Ed.
Okay.
And this is something that because I did a lot of when I learned how to paint, I did primarily portrait stuff when I was learning how to do art at all. So I love drawing faces, and faces were like my thing that I just would always gravitate towards. And how many different, because it seems like there's people's faces that parts repeat amongst the all the humans that you'll draw. How many different noses do you really classify down to? Are there like 10 noses that you keep seeing over and over again? How many different kinds of eyes? Is it 5, 10 eyes?
Well, I don't think of it like that. It's a case by case basis. What you think of, I mean, to really water it down, you look at someone even if you're drawing them straight on, you look at them from the side so you can get a 3D picture of the person. And where's the tip of the nose? Does it come out? Does it go up? Mine tends to go up. Does it go down? So you've got that as a baseline.
There's up, there's nose, there's down. Yeah.
Where's the tear duct compared to the outside of the eye? Is it slanted down? Is it slanted up? Is it straight across? That's a starting point. So I would say that. But the thing that really gets me about a lot of I don't want to talk smack, but if I see a caricature artist like on the street, which happens a lot, they kind of have 2 or 3 sets of eyes that they just have memorized, and no matter what they're looking at, the eyes are going to look the way that they draw eyes. And you can get smarmy about it, you can get but I just go, oh, well, I'm not going to take that guy seriously. Side note, actually, being in New York City is pretty funny because in Times Square and these touristy places, there's all these caricature artists set up there. They come out, they bring a chair and an umbrella, and they have their display of samples. And it's pretty well known that the artists on the street are really pretty lousy. Just the way, just not everyone.
Never quite looks like some of those samples.
Yeah, you can look at the samples, and I guarantee you, I'm just talking about New York. They'll have a display of samples that are obviously stolen from the internet.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they don't even take the guy's name off, So like I've seen my drawings up there. I've seen Richmond's up there. I've seen Drucker's up there. Sebastian Kruger, who is a world-class painter who lives in Germany. And then they have all these beautiful samples, and then you watch them draw, and they just do a circle for a head and put that little cross, from left to right and up to down, and just fill in whatever they feel like it, and write a big name right next to it. That's my litmus test. If you have to put a big name next to the person's head, I'm not going to drop that $5 or whatever it costs to get in the street.
But Ed, aren't you glad that everyone's not fantastic? Would you rather everyone be better than us?
Hell no.
There you go. This is all good.
They're lousy. I'm not going to show anything.
It always picks up a little jump in my step when I see some really bad art. It always makes me feel much better.
It's less competition.
Yeah, I always judge a caricature by the size of the head and the smallness of the body.
Yeah.
So if the head is like the size,
bodies.
Yeah, if the head is the size of Jupiter and the body is like just these little things coming off the bottom.
And once you see the surfboard, it's over. Once they put them on a surfboard
or the roller skates.
Game, set, match.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's caricatures like that really have given that art form a bad name. They kind of have a bad rap now.
It's really just a caricature of caricaturists.
Well, it's actually a lot of it now is just a business. Like there's a lot of companies that, like when I started, there was a couple, there's a handful of companies that all they did was caricatures, and they were owned by artists. They hired artists. They looked at portfolios. They did all that. And as time went on, and theme parks started to, really get greedy, some company would come in that does they do caricatures, they make fudge, they do face painting, they do henna tattoos, they'll braid your hair, and so now it's all kind of lumped into one, and none of them are very good. I know people that have actually drawn caricatures for these companies, and some of them have become good despite having worked for a company that doesn't take pride in the art.
How's the fudge?
I don't know. I haven't had it.
Okay,
There's one that makes turkey legs. They go.
Oh, the turkey legs are great. The Renaissance festivals.
Renaissance.
I used to
say-
love
That's where
the
I live.
Renaissance festivals.
That's where I live. I live next to the cloisters.
Oh yeah,
That's
know
where I
that
came from.
is.
Ed, I got to ask you a question about something that you've done that's amazing, and we haven't even touched on it, which is what you did with the USO. And you're a world traveler, and could you just explain your association with them?
All right. Well, you did your deep dive. Back in 1945, when the National Cartoonist Society was just forming, it formed from a group of cartoonists who did a lot of traveling overseas with the USO, and on basically morale-raising missions. You've seen the Bob Hope and the the Marilyn Monroe USO shows, but they would also have these cartoonists go and do chalk talks and draw and entertain the troops. And that's back when cartoonists were celebrities. And then once the war was done, all these guys came back. They all lived in New York, and they just kept getting together. So they formed what would become the National Cartoonist Society. And that was a regular thing. And I hope I have this right. They would regularly have USO trips for, some, I don't know how they picked who would go, but it kind of died out right around Vietnam. And a couple years ago at the National Cartoonist Society business meeting, a guy raised his hand, a dude named Jeff Bacon, who's now a good friend of mine, raised his hand and said, "Hey, how come the Cartoonist Society doesn't do these USO things anymore? I think we should do these." And I forget who was president at the time, but whoever did pointed a gavel at him and said, "You want to do that? Make it happen," which usually gets rid of about 99% of ideas, because people want to have an idea. They don't want to follow through on it. But this dude actually started up USO trips with the NCS again. And I was lucky enough to be one of the ones in the first couple groups, and still do before COVID. Be a group of maybe 10 or so artists. We would just sign on for a week or 2 weeks and go wherever they sent us. So now I've been on a number of these trips. I've been to Afghanistan, Iraq a number of times, Turkey, Africa, all over. And what we do is we just sit and talk with service members and their families, and just kind of give them a little piece of home, and they get a drawing, a souvenir at the end of it. It was generally caricaturists, me and Tom Richmond, and some other caricature people, and then people that did comic strips that were, they pretty much had to be in Stars and Stripes. So that just to make sure everyone knew the comic strip, because let's face it, not everybody knows every comic strip. So we would go on these trips and just be flown around and have these amazing experiences drawing people, and my life absolutely changed after that. All of a sudden, every problem that I thought I had became a lot less of a problem, because I got to see how people who have really important jobs, what their lives are like. And I got to live how they lived for a bit. And I came back from my very first trip very, very humbled. And my life literally took a turn. I stopped worrying as much. I stopped being so critical, and started to really enjoy how lucky I was to be able to do what I do. And that never left. I still have that. That might be a little bit too deep for your question, Bob, but
We'll cut this all out.
Yeah, that's good. I made all that up anyway. Load of bull. So that stopped, a little bit, actually right around the time it got a little messy in the Middle East, because if there's any kind of danger, we are the first ones to get canceled. They're not gonna, they're not gonna put us in harm's way. But it can be kind of rough, staying in the desert. especially if it's in Afghanistan, we're in the bunks just with everybody else. There's no special treatment. Yeah, it's yeah, I could talk about that forever. And I've got a lot of great pictures and some souvenirs.
Well, thanks for doing that. I think it's wonderful.
Well, we hope to get it started up again. I'm now the liaison between the NCS and the USO, and we have a trip, kind of an inaugural dip your toe back in the water thing, coming up early 2020. And I'm pretty sure I'm 99% sure I got Jim Davis to actually come out and do it. So that'd be cool.
Garfield. It's my favorite cartoon is Garfield. If listeners of the podcast remember, it is my
That's
favorite
correct.
cartoon.
Should get him on this show. That'll get your audience back after this miserable show.
Mondays. Lasagna.
Oh,
Yes.
Who needs them? Normal. Get out of here.
So cute and stupid.
Oh, come on, John and Lyman. This is
Marty,
This
Marty, I'm
li-
going to do. Sorry,
Go ahead.
Marty. I'm going to do a great Garfield cartoon for you. So be
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Lay it on me.
Michael,
Wait till you
Michael does
see
a
it.
great Garfield imitation. Go
That's
ahead,
right.
Michael.
I
Don't be
do a
shy.
great.
He's always
lasagna.
napping.
That's
He
right.
just sleeps in a box all the time with a little blanket.
Or falling off the edge of something.
We have 2 foster cats, and between the
Look
2
who
of them,
heard
they
you.
only have 6 legs. So that tells you how much I love cats.
Look who heard you talk about foster cats.
Uh-oh,
This is Franklin.
Franklin.
Franklin loves to photobomb Zooms. Everybody who's listening to this without video,
There's a
just,
cat.
just make believe it's a huge tiger who's 8 feet long and eating a big piece of steak. It's actually a Bengal cat.
How ironic would that be that you travel at all these war-torn territories and then later you get killed by your own cat,
Eaten by your
attacking you
cat.
from behind?
At least the irony wouldn't be lost on me. I would get it on my way out. I'd be like, well, of course that happened. And now you can see close above my cat's ear.
That's right. Very clean ears.
Very clean.
Don't call me Frank.
Don't tell him
Bobby
that. It's going to
Franklin.
go right to his head.
Did you put together any Rube Goldberg machines while you were in lockdown? Because I saw lots of people doing that on the internet. They were putting together these crazy contraptions and they were amazing. They were so cool.
I don't have the patience or the time for that. And I will tell you this is kind of fun in the position that I'm in doing all this Rube stuff. Whenever anybody posts a Rube machine anywhere, no matter how great or how lame, it eventually winds up in my inbox or tag me on Facebook. And I'm constantly reminded how much better everyone else is at building these machines than me.
No, that's not true. I'm telling
Oh,
you. No, the way you rendered your contraptions was really amazing. My favorite drawing in the book, and we should repeat the name of it. It's Rube Goldberg and his amazing machines. And it's also written with Brendan Snyder. My favorite drawing is the one with the dogs. It's just one dog, but you illustrated it as one dog going through this whole contraption. There's so much action and there's so much complexity. My favorite part of your drawings is your compositions. And there's a lot of good things about your drawings, but I'm
thanks.
going to say your compositions are so precise. It's like there's so much rhythm in them and you layered everything. So there's a lot of spatial feeling. You really go back in the pictures very well too. And I just really like the book.
Well, that
I
means a
highly
lot.
recommend it.
Yeah, that means a lot because composition is the one thing that I struggle with. I have been for years, but I've also paid a lot of attention to it. So I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that.
Well, if you're going to construct something like that, as complicated as that, would you do it in layers where you work from the furthest point back and go forward? Or what would be your process regarding that? Because some of these
That's a
pieces
great
were
question.
very complicated.
What I would do is actually, I would sketch it out very flat, very linear. This goes to this, goes to this, does this, and that, blah, 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 blah. And then once I have that and it basically works, then I put it into the space and I decide, does it start in the back of the room? Does it start here? But always trying to lead the eye to where I want it to go. So yeah, it depends. Sometimes if like that one you're talking about, the dog starts in the back and the dog actually destroys a Rube machine, which is
Right.
very frustrating. But I had to, that wasn't written. I mean, it is part of the story, but I had to say, how do I tell the story of a dog destroying this machine that this kid spent all night making. Well, I don't know where I didn't invent this method, but just draw a dog here and then dog here and just kind of draw the dog in motion. And my intention was to have the dog really animate throughout. So his legs are kind of opposite each way, and he's looking here, he's looking there, and he's looking ahead. And that was one of the ones that I did. I was already basically warmed up and in the zone. So I just kind of drew it and just, hope for the best. But
the dog seems very happy about his.
Yeah, it's Birth of the Siberian Cheesehound, which is also a classic Goldberg character from the 20s. And again, all these characters in the book most of them are based on vintage Rube Goldberg characters.
Right. What was the genesis for that? That's kind of interesting because even I just started looking at the Mike and Ike. They look alike.
Right.
And that's quite the homage to a very venerable comic strip. And was that from you, or was that something?
Oh, that's Mike and Ike. Mike and Ike again were vintage Rube characters. Now that brings me to a quick side note. There's a lot of Rube characters names that have gone on to become
delicious candy.
Yeah, Mike and Ike are candy. There's a Lollapalooza is a Rube Goldberg character, and we all know what that is.
Wow.
Rube's best friend in this book, his name is Boob McNutt.
Yeah, I was looking at him too.
Yeah, now that is another one that meant something else in 1920.
Oh boy!
And when I first read this book, when I knew that it was being done, and by the way, it was orchestrated by Jennifer George, who she wrote our picture books, but she's Rube Goldberg's granddaughter.
And that's, by the way, she introduced you and me. We met,
yes.
You and me met at her house.
That sounds about right. No, I think I met you before that, but you were avoiding me.
No, I was, but I met you at her apartment over a party, was one of the meetings, and that's when I was introduced to the society. But I'm sorry, let's get back on track.
This sounds like a swanky party.
Yeah. It was.
It was. In fact, it's because of those parties that I got this job. Jennifer, we're friends now, but I was the NCS liaison. She wanted to, just kind of learn about the NCS because of Rube's connection. And it just worked out that I ran the local chapter of the National Cartoonist Society. So she invited us to have once a year have an event at her house. Everyone pays whatever, and it's catered and booze and all that. We did that for about maybe 3 years, and then at the one year after everybody went home and a few of us are just kind of hanging out, I said, Jennifer, what's new? And she tells me, oh, we're trying to get this children's book together. We just can't find the right artist for it. And it's very frustrating. And I went, wait a minute, what? And I said, me, I'm the guy for this. She says,
you're the perfect guy for it.
She denies this part of the story, but I stand by it. She didn't really know that I drew. I was the guy that planned functions for the NCS. So she knew me in that capacity. She didn't know, she never saw anything I did, I know. And so she said, oh, really? Charlie Kochman was there as well. And he's,
head of Abrams,
very well-known editor at Abrams. He's the editor of the Wimpy Kid books. The Wimpy Kid books happened because of Charlie. And Charlie was there, and I'm also good friends with Charlie. And Charlie, he kind of had a moment. He went, oh my God, of course, perfect. So I had to go home and, do it. But, they told me about it, and I had to go prove myself. I had to design this little character. And I did. And Charlie and Jennifer said, yep, that's the one. The publisher, Abrams, they weren't too keen on having me, actually, because they really wanted to have a name do these books. They wanted to get a C.F. Payne or somebody to do these. And Charlie, God bless him, he said, if Ed doesn't do it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, Ed, your work looks just like, it's definitely inspired by Jack Davis. I see a lot of Jack Davis in a lot.
Sure.
And I'm going to guess he's one of your favorite artists.
I never heard of him. Who's that?
He's a guy you've been copying.
I'm a big Jack Davis fan.
You're shading though and stuff. You really have done, like, you've taken it another level. It's really just really well done.
The way I think about it is that, you learn from people like that. I've learned a lot from Jack. I've learned a lot from Mort. I've learned a lot from not just the mad people, but now you can go to Rockwell. You can go to the classic. I love advertising illustration, especially from the 40s and 50s. I just love that stuff. Like, look at a Leyendecker from before that. I like to think you see parallels there. I'm no Leyendecker, but I certainly picked up things and went, I didn't know that you could do that with and you learn things. So I learned a ton from Jack. I learned a lot from everybody. And
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ed, did you develop developed Rube, the young Rube? Who is he based on?
Well, Rube is I got the history of Rube Goldberg, like the Rube Goldberg.
Right, he's a real person, and
Rube was tall and lanky, and Rube never built these machines. He just drew them. A lot of people don't really understand that. But I just had to come up with what I thought this kid would look like. And it just kind of materialized. I actually have the original sketch over there in my flat files. I did a couple passes, but even the very first drawing of Rube, it echoes what Rube eventually evolved into. I don't know why he has red hair. I think it stands out. I don't know. But in the beginning, he had a little bow tie and his nose was kind of like a pointy, like a triangle, but he always had round glasses. I had glasses as a kid. I was a 2-year-old with big, thick glasses. And so I don't know, it's just something that I did. So he just materialized, but I didn't think about it as much as, I'd like to say I've struggled with it for weeks, but I just kind of worked on this for a weekend.
So he wasn't the subject of multiple focus groups.
Yeah, no, there's no focus groups. It was a leap of faith, I'll tell you that. Because when the first book came out, we don't know if people are interested in this. Well, that was 2017. Last I heard, it was in its 5th printing. And I actually finished the sequel to that book last summer, 2020. 2020 was great for me, by the way. I was on books the entire time. I finished the sequel in summer 2020. It was supposed to come out in April of this year, but because picture books generally do better sales when it's in-person sales rather than online ordering, they pushed it back to the spring of 2022. So this book that just came out today, I did immediately after the picture book. So yeah, but by the time I got to these, it's a middle reader book. By the time I got to this, I was already well engrossed in Rube's world. I knew how things worked. Everything had a basis, not just in Rube Goldberg, but also in what I brought to the table. So I'm not aping anybody. I'm just, drawing what I want to draw. And I love drawing animals and stuff. There's a lot of that. So everything just kind of evolved. And by the time I got to this book, I was already familiar with the world. So coming up with the characters was the fun part. I had to design the new Boob McNutt.
Yes. Do you create your drawings based on where you're inspired by the text, or are you sort of say, here, we need a drawing?
Sometimes for some of these, for the characters, you mean?
Well, I mean, just why a drawing happens on the page during the story.
Yeah, I have to read the text and interpret the text. Yeah, I mean, I kind of know what the world looks like. I know what the world feels like. It's not what it looks like, but I know what I'm going to put into the world. So I know what the world is going to basically be. I don't really know what the house is going to look like or the tree is going to look like, but I kind of know where my sensibilities are and how things are going to unfold. The fun part was coming up with the actual characters, because like I said, these are, a lot of them are based on old, right, really, really dusty old cartoon characters. And a lot of them are, you just couldn't do that. You couldn't do what you could do in the 20s anymore. And I brought, especially Boob McNutt is a major character. And at first I was worried about the name. Like, is that going to fly? I grew up in a family of teachers. But once I read the first chapter of the book and Brandon laid that out, he made it clear why he has the funny name, and it's just brilliant. It is. I mean, now Boob McNutt's great. So I had to think of what do I think Boob McNutt looks like. I looked at old drawings of the original Boob, and I just made him, how I would interpret that character, and to bring him into the modern age. I had to dust him off and make him, look the way I would do it. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm looking at the book right now, and you have a full page. What's it, page 48? And the composition is very Rockwell.
Oh, are you looking at? Is it the girl standing?
Yes. I go, well, that's a Rockwell.
That's absolutely a Rockwell. That is based on one of the 4 freedoms.
Right.
Is it freedom of speech?
Yes.
Yeah. That's one of the ones that I was talking about. I really, this is the introduction of this really strong, powerful character, Pearl, she's a constant player throughout the whole series, and she's amazing. She's fantastic. And I really wanted her introduction to really hit you in the face, because she is a force to be reckoned with. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know how I came up. Well, in the setting, she's in an assembly, and she stands up and she has to address the principal. So I guess, I had something, but I went and looked at that painting, and I did the composition basically the same. The people around her are doing the same types of things that people are in that image.
Yeah, I was just thumbing through it and I saw that. So do you pitch that idea? Like, we need a full page illustration, and I have this Rockwell that's.
No, I don't tell anybody that.
Okay.
I don't tell anybody that until it's done. I just,
it seems painfully obvious to me. So.
Well, again, not many people actually, the book just came out, but I've showed a few people a number of these, and some like real comics and, artsy fartsy types, they'll kind of get some of them, but not everybody gets that one. And the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein.
I noticed is there a Jean Harlow on your website? Did you draw Jean Harlow?
Yeah.
That was
Ed. Why don't you share? Ed, why don't you share the address for your website and where we can see your work and get the book?
Yeah, my website is www. Write that down, and then a little period. And
say it a little slower.
EDSTECKLEY.com.
Excellent.
But there's a lot on Instagram, which is a fun little thing that I've discovered. And that is just Ed Steckley Illustrator, all one word.
Will you be doing any book events coming up? We could come out and see you.
Yeah, I have one tomorrow. Probably that'll be after this airs. I'm going to be we're going to have a lot after the first of the year, because after Thanksgiving, they kind of put a lot of that on hold. I have a couple Zooms at schools and stuff, but supposedly the in-person things will hopefully be starting up after the first of the year. They're working on that now, but I'll be in the Midwest. So last time I had a book come out, I did a really cool Midwest tour. Went to Chicago and St. Louis and all these places in between. I had a ball. So I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Oh, great. Well, let's follow you on Instagram.
Everything I do will be on. I will have a schedule on the website, right? It's just been abandoned COVID, but it'll be up there again.
Excellent. Ed, thanks for coming on. I don't want to take up any more of your time. We're very, taking up so much of your time. You're so busy, and I know you're moving. So we wish you well in your new place.
I got nothing else to do.
Well, thanks, it was fun. It was fun to learn about the faces.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on this, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the next show will be much better.
No, it's great to see you.
We'll get together in Sheboygan.
I have friends in Sheboygan.
The Sheboygan Conservatory of Music, where Marilyn Monroe graduated from.
Really?
In the movie Some Like It Hot.
Shaw can drive you around in his, what do you got, a Fiat, an MG? What do you have in this
Fiat and a Triumph, but I aspire
to. Those are not very Wisconsin-like cars.
No, my car taste is deviant.
Can you drive those in the weather?
No.
Oh, the Fiat you can, because it's all-wheel drive.
Okay.
So there you go.
Right,
the Triumph is tucked away.
Yeah, good call.
But you love Wisconsin. Welcome home.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, you can become the chapter president here. Maybe Bob and I will rejoin.
I'm losing you. You're cutting out.
No, Bob and I will rejoin. We got kicked out. We'll have to go into that someday.
Yeah, you got to pay your dues and you won't get kicked out.
Hey. Okay.
Shaw joined the with the British
the
cartoonist.
the pro cartoonists, because the NCS wouldn't have me anymore.
Well, I'm sure they have their
I used to
reasons.
hang out at I went to
Manny.
University of Missouri, so I got to do my graduate thesis research with Mort Walker.
You're at Mizzou.
Yes, at old Missouri there.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
That's not Wisconsin.
Well, it's the
But,
way I say it. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
because I've been there many times.
You're gonna get your Wisconsin accent back. my
Don't
friend.
forget, I used to live in St. Louis, so I know Mizzou well. My
Oh
sister
Lord,
graduated from-
I grew up in St. Louis. We have lots of points of connection. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. I lived in Soulard for a couple years.
Oh my, that's a swinging bohemian part of
Yeah,
St.
but-
Louis.
I try to avoid swinging artsy fartsy type places, but I just want to live in the
Oh.
city.
I used to live in L.A.
Louisiana, huh? That's nice.
No, Lower Arnold.
Oh, he's nice.
No, Arnold.
The other guys are falling asleep.
Yes. This can be edited out too. Don't
Is
worry.
this still on? Are we still on the podcast?
Are we still on?
I
Bob,
forgot that we
someone
were
wake
even
up
here.
Bob.
Okay.
All right. Have
So
a great
listen,
trip. Have a great move.
Thanks.
Ed,
Absolutely. It was great
we'll-
to see you.
we'll get your
Wish
book.
you well.
Everybody should be getting Ed's book immediately.
The book
They can
again?
probably order it right now.
The name
Book
again is
again.
Rube Goldberg and his amazing machines. I've read it backwards and forwards trying to figure out the machines. You really did a great job. It was great to see you. Sorry I missed you in Queens. I was actually in Pennsylvania at an event, so that's why we missed
Oh,
your goodbye. But
you're
this is even better because we got a chance to hear how you operate and how your mind works. So
yeah,
thanks
and
for sharing.
I haven't had any whiskey yet, so I'm coherent.
All
somewhat.
right, there you go.
Remember, in Wisconsin, it's against the law to be not drinking. So
I've noticed that. I've been back
Yeah.
a few times, and I have to get used to that again.
So let me say
You know what?
goodbye
I'm a
for the
trooper, and I'll do it.
thank you.
I'm going to say goodbye for the cartoon pad. So let it be written. So let it be drawn. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.